Hey, what's up, guys? Well, this is a first. We're finished. We're finished with the little slide. So this was our test piece. It's the smallest piece on the camper. I wanted to focus on it first just because it was a small enough panel that if we had to redo things, we could redo them. And thank goodness, because we had to redo them. I don't even want to talk about the number of sanding hours that was on this thing, but anyway, we've got it done, and it's kind of quite a journey. And it honestly, everybody came in on Friday. It was July 4th. We had some time off for some other stuff that was in an earlier video, but everybody came in on Friday. We've got a Class A roof job that we're doing behind us. The guys were knocking it out. Got the roof decking on. I'm actually going to do a video on that tomorrow, but they were working on the roof decking, and I was working on getting this thing into color. So this is our first. What we're trying to, or what we are working towards, is to be able to reproduce this so that, let's say you're in Florida and you've got a slide, whether it's this size or 12 feet, 14 feet long, but you've got a slide that's completely water damaged. The rest of the camper is great. But you want this slide in your RV, but you don't want to pull it from Florida to here. Ultimately, we're not that far away, but ultimately we're going to be able to build this here in the shop in a pretty quick turnaround and be able to put it on an LTL or less than truckload, basically ship it down to Florida, and either you can put it in yourself, you can have a mobile tech put it in, or you can take it to a shop and have them put it in. I've been talking to some new friends of ours, some mobile techs around the country that may want to actually do this for us so that we can get into doing this more and more. Just about anybody can rebuild a slide. They're not that difficult to tear down. They're not terribly difficult to put back together. What you get into is, how do you seal them up? How do you weatherproof them? That's where we get into what we're doing. I've been showing a lot of videos, and it was interesting because I put a bunch of pictures on Facebook and did some stuff. We launched a video about it, put it on Friday, and this wasn't done. Over the weekend, we had a ton of people reach out. We had more phone calls today than we've ever had on any. By noon, everybody was like, holy cow, what's going on? And I think what's happening is we're starting to wrap some of these projects up, and people are starting to see our full potential. Roof job called this morning. It looks like he's wanting to come in. This guy, obviously, then there's a couple others behind us. But back to this and why we're doing it. There's a lot of specialized equipment that once the rebuild is done, how do you get this thing waterproof? You guys don't have a polyurea spray rig or the ability to paint, the ability to spray polyurea. You don't have the chemicals and all that kind of stuff, so it kind of sets everybody back. These materials are, the material that we sprayed on the face of this it's commercially available. It's similar to what another company is using on their roof jobs. The problem with this material is it needs to be painted, and as soon as it needs to get painted, the question is, what do you paint it with? You can make it a bright white with, you're going to hear a lot of terms here, but it's called aliphatic paint. So you can spray the polyurea that we sprayed on the front of this, and then you can put an aliphatic paint on it, and over time, that aliphatic paint, it kind of acts like galvanizing. It gives itself up to the ultraviolet light, and over time, it'll need to be recoated. The reason I went this route is, first of all, it's completely smooth. It's nice and flat. There's a few waves in it, but we're still figuring out some of our processes. But this is an automotive base coat, clear coat. It's got 3 coats of clear coat on it, and automotive paint lasts a long time. Aliphatic paint gives itself up, and if you read the fine print, it's going to need to be recoated in 8 to 10, 12 years, depending on your sun exposure. This stuff ought to last a very long time. How long does automotive paint last? So that's one of the reasons that we went with this process, is we can repeat this, we can do this often, but it gives a really interesting look. When I was spraying the This time last year, we were rebuilding our camper and we sprayed it with the same material and then we painted it. We did just a single stage paint. I wasn't real happy with the way the color turned out. Definitely didn't like the texture. I've spent a lot of time figuring out how to make this thing nice and smooth. That's what we want to do. Basically, you can take this thing, we could ship it to you, or in this case, we're going to install it in the camper once everything's done. You can put graphics on it. Again, it's automotive base coat, clear coat. It's just like an automotive finish. So all of these seams along here, we'll get a close-up of this. These are weak spots. What we've done is we've fixed all the weak spots. This is completely encapsulated or sprayed in polyurea. There's no seams. There's not a seam anywhere on the face of this. I'm going to start pivoting this around, but the point to all of this is to make this so that there's literally zero place for water to get into. So as I spin this thing, hopefully I can do this and not look like a goofball. Yeah. How's that for the shot? So leak entry points, this thing's all kinds of dusty, but the window is completely sealed in. The only seal that's replaceable is this gasket right here. If you ever need to replace the window, you simply take a razor knife and go in and cut around this thing and it'll come out just like a traditional window will. And then you can always go back and caulk it back in. But the window is sealed into the side. This is the aluminum outside flange. The gasket will go right here. The aluminum comes all the way over. We'll get a close-up of this shot. But the aluminum comes out to here. The polyurea comes clear to the edge of the aluminum, and then there's automotive grade seam sealer that's sealed up to this. So in order for water to get in on this face, you'd have to get past seam sealer, aluminum, and aliphatic polyurea. At the bottom, you'll notice there's no transition. There's still a little bit of trimming that needs to be done, but the bottom is sprayed in polyurea as well. We decided to put just a traditional black on the bottom of it. That way it looks like every other camper. But when we sprayed this originally, and we've put some pictures out of what this looked like because we had it on its face and we sprayed this all the way around. It's literally one continuous membrane. On a normal slide, you would see a transition strip right here. Those strips are notorious for letting water run back in and then it runs down. And when it runs down the face of this, it actually leaks into the camper. There's no transition piece here because there's no transition. This is just a smooth, we'll get a picture of the top corner of this, but this is just a smooth one piece, they call it a membrane, but it's sprayed all the way around it. So again, there's no place for it to leak. When we put the floor in, we spray the floor with polyurea before we attach it. When we attach it, we actually use, from the factory, they use just a quick zip screw and it's boom, 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 and it's done. There's 3 screws holding this whole thing in. So when you're sitting on this aluminum is super thin, and you got 3 threads, 3 screw threads holding this floor to the aluminum. So when we got in there and realized how weak the structure was, we completely changed that. This slide wall is literally bolted to the slide floor. I have not seen anybody else do that. So you've got a waterproof floor, no seam transitions on the top or the bottom. Everything's bolted to it, so there's no give to this whatsoever. So if water does try to run down the face, it's going to run down to the face onto a waterproof floor. We pulled the polyurea up the sidewall, so even if it gets all the way down to here, it's still on waterproof, and about the only thing it can do is run out at that point. When we put our face flanges on here, we're going to be able to run a bead of caulk up this aluminum piece and actually make this piece caulked right along this transition piece. So even if water tried to get to here, it's not going to have any place to go. And when I get into it, I'll show you the gaskets that we're going to use. Then you get into some of the customization that we can do. Can you get this aluminum in there okay? I've talked about this before, but this makes a massive difference, and we've already seen it. When you're setting in this, I was setting in this slide doing the trim work on this thing, and even with this open, there's enough insulation here that this little area was starting to warm up a little bit. Everybody commented on it. It's crazy how much more insulated this is. But what we found in our camper, after we fixed the roof and insulated it super well, all of the radiant heat coming off of the walls, it kind of gave me an aha moment. But what's happening in a traditional camper is the sun's hitting the sidewall. Fiberglass transmits heat very well. That's what fill-in is. There's 1.5 inches of fiberglass batt insulation. I don't know what the R value is of 1.5 inches, but it's got to be really stinking low. And then there's just a interior panel. So everywhere there's aluminum, and there's aluminum running right here, here. There's 2 pieces that come across here, and there's a piece that comes down this way. All of that aluminum gets hot. It heats the inside panel up, and all of that heat comes into here. Same thing on the back walls of all this stuff. We added an extra inch of insulation. It's rigid foam to the inside panel, so that if once heat gets to this, it's going to have to go through another inch of foam before any heat gets in. That's going to dramatically cut down on the amount of radiant heat that comes in. And then in the cavities of all of these, instead of 1.5 inch fiberglass insulation, it's 1.5 inch rigid foam insulation, and all of that is glued together. So this whole thing becomes one compartment. That's another, the insulation is a huge weak structure. Some of the stuff I'm working on is to build, we've got a panel construction. We're going to give some options on thickness of sidewalls, thickness of back walls, because we can change this interior size just a little bit and have a big impact on insulation. We'll get into that when we launch it, but a lot of the time that's been taken, and Jordan's patience in all of this, has been to prototype some of this stuff and just figure out how all this is going to interact. We've got a camper here, we've got a slide. What if we change this? You know, we build it, put it together, stick it in, make sure it works, and then boom, yes, it works. When we added this extra insulation in here, I'm going to keep rolling because this is a lot of unique stuff. I've already put this out. We'll get some pictures of the inside window trim, but because we added an extra inch right here, we had 1 inch to deal with. So how do we trim that in? But I custom cut some cedar, and we put a little window ledge in right here. It's cedar all the way around, and then it's cedar up the sidewalls and into this to give all of the edges a nice, clean, square look. So once the carpet goes down on this, we're going to be able to put our baseboard trim in, and presto, the slide's done. People are going to ask about weight. There was actually a window in the back. There was a window on this side. So for this particular slide, we lost weight. We only added a small piece of insulation right here on both sides, and then we added an extra, I think it was 1.5 inches on the back side on this one, wasn't it? There's nothing on the back side of this because it was all one piece. Yeah, we added an, yeah. So there's, sorry guys, there's 2.5 inches of insulation on this thing all the way around. When this started, there was only 1 inch of insulation. So it's dramatically more insulated, which is what Jordan wanted. We took 2 windows out. We've added, I don't know what the windows weigh, but collectively probably 40, 50 pounds. I think we added about 10 pounds of insulation and dropped 40, 50 pounds of window. Plywood's still the same. All the rest of the construction is still the same. So weight-wise, this is almost a wash. Same thing on the big slide. We'll go through and show that. But again, all of this is centered around water, whether it be humidity, the walls sweating. When I was building this, gosh, I finished this up in February. But while I was going through a lot of this stuff, I kept seeing posts on their slides where the walls were sweating. There was just all kinds of moisture, and all it was thermal transfer from the outside to the inside. In the summertime, it's there's more people camping in the wintertime than there used to be, but most of the camper season is unless you're living in it full time, most of the camper season summer. So everybody's complaining about heat, but heat and cold, it acts the same. It's just which direction is the energy traveling. So that's what we've done is we've eliminated heat or cold. We've eliminated the ability for or not eliminated, but we've drastically reduced the ability for the sun to heat it up inside. We've drastically reduced the ability for cold to make these walls sweat when it's wintertime out. And then we used a polyurethane primer, and this is an exterior acrylic paint for the interior of these walls because it resists moisture so much. It's going to push that moisture away and not just release and start peeling like a normal latex house paint would. These are completely painted walls. There's no wallpaper. We're not doing wallpaper in any of the camper. Everything's painted so that the point is that we're going to have a completely waterproof camper top to bottom. The floor is going to be waterproof. The slides are waterproof. The roof is, by all accounts, it's lifetime. There's hardly any roof penetrations in it. So I didn't want to add wallpaper to make this, if he wants to go back in 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years or whatever, all he's going to have to do is a real light scuff. You could even take a roller and paint over this stuff. It's super friendly to switch out. So part of what's taken so long to get to this point is every step that we've taken has been thought out and figured out, and worst case scenario this, and what happens if that, and then test this and test that, and figure this out and figure that out. It's worn me out, it's worn the guys out, it's worn the shop out, it's worn all of us out, but I think in the end this is going to be worth it. So I don't think I've got anything else to say about this. We're going to get the big slide is in the booth. It's been primed. We're going to start doing the floor of the rest of the floor of the big slide tomorrow. Then we'll get it stood up. Everything will be done, and we're going to go in and start the outside wall process of that. Once we've got these two, this one's done. Once we've got that one done, about 25% of the camper is already sprayed. We're going to put the mini split head unit in, get the line set, couple of wires, insulate the thing, put a roof on it, and then we're going to get down to business. So we're doing that in the midst of our roof jobs and everything else. But that's what's going on. Like I said, right now, come to the shop. We can completely rebuild this thing. The exterior wall is an option. If you want it sprayed in polyurea, we can definitely do that. It would be an upgrade. If you want to leave the exterior wall the exact same as it was, we can take this thing apart, take the exterior wall or the face off. We can rebuild everything exactly the way we've done here and then put that face back on so it's going to look exactly like it did. But what we'll do, what nobody else is doing, is we'll take care of these sidewalls right here, top, sides, and bottom. So those will be completely wrapped in polyurea. And then just this external face here that we spent so much time on, that's the option where we can paint it or we can just put it back as original. There's not a lot of weak points right here in the face, but I have seen some joints, and especially in windstorms, wind and rain and stuff like that, it'll push moisture back in there, and then it drops down and it starts in that corner. So that is a weak spot that we addressed. If you've got any questions, hit the questions in the YouTube video that we're going to post, obviously. Call us, text us. The website, GG Camper Repair, is live. We've been getting calls off of that. Fill out the form if you've got a request for information or anything like that, or just give us a call and let us know what's going on. But hit the subscribe button on YouTube. That helps us out, helps us keep track. And again, this weekend was kind of crazy, and I came in this morning and I talked to a half a dozen people, and they were like, yeah, we've been following you forever, and now it's kind of cool to get to talk to you. So it's neat to know that people in the wild are out there looking at what we're doing and support what we're doing, and they're excited about seeing stuff like this. So I appreciate the support. Keep watching. We've got some more stuff coming, and then tomorrow I'm going to do a video on how we get the roof prepped before we spray this aliphatic. So I think that's it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Later, guys.